What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the May 2nd NHL playoffs picks video. I am your host, Josh Harris. You can follow me on Twitter at JRH002DFS. As always, the show is sponsored by Prize Picks, and we have a great tool for that. We have Odd Shopper. You can use Odd Shopper if you're looking to, bet playoff series. And we actually do on the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. You should check it out. We have NHL best bets video for the playoffs. Check it out. The guy is very energetic. If you are a Days of Our Lives fan, you may recognize him. So go check that out. Talk about Prize Picks for a second. You get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks using promo code Awesemo. That's AWESEMO. You'll receive email confirmation within 24 to 48 hours after to redeem your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Also, when you use the code Awesemo, you'll get up to $100 first match deposit bonus. So if you're in a legal state, check that out. It's a lot of fun. You can 10x your entry fee. It's pretty sweet. So definitely check that out. Check out the Odd Shopper YouTube channel for the NHL best bets for the playoffs. I'm into betting series prices and stuff. I bet the Rangers in the series. Obviously, you see all the Ranger stuff. But anyway, with the playoffs being here and it only being a 4-game slate, I kind of wanted to do the show a little bit more like the strategy show with me and Cliffy rather than make some picks and then talk about some stacks at the end, just because with 4 games, I think I can get through it in 15 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. So let's talk about this first game here. We have the Boston Bruins going into Carolina to face the Hurricanes. Bruins have a 2.7. Carolina has a 2.9. Yeah, this is going to be a tough series. I think, Bruins being in the wild card is real interesting. Like it's not the best match. Like the NHL playoffs system need an overhaul. It's pretty brutal, but this is a tough first round matchup for Carolina, but let's talk about it. Favorite line from the Bruins for me is going to be the top line. I know they're probably going to see a good bit of Stahlfast, Niederreiter, one of the better shutdown lines in the NHL, at least in the second half of the season. They might mix in some time against Trocheck, but Boston's kind of, I don't want to say they're a one-line team because their second line is pretty good, but their center depth is pretty poor, and that top line is really good, and they're fairly priced. You know what I mean? Like, their minutes were down towards the end of the regular season, and their price reflects it now. You see Bergeron 6,500, Marchand 6,800, Jake DeBrusk 4,400. So I think the play, if you're using Boston, is to go full Boston 1. And I know a lot of people like power play stacking the Bruins, myself included. I would just err on the side of caution with that. Carolina has an excellent penalty kill. Maybe you can go to old Boston one like Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak just to be different in tournaments because these guys are coming in double digits. But, like I said, very good penalty kill on the Carolina side. So you want to do a Pastrnak one-off, I think that's fine. You want a Pastrnak Hall 2-man because Hall's super cheap on the power play. That's fine. But for me, it's going to be Boston 1. On the Carolina side, I think, it's going to be that top line. And, Carolina isn't getting too much ownership. So I think they make a pretty good pivot off, like the Edmontons and the Torontos tonight. They're not super expensive. And that top line should avoid Bergeron, which is really where you want to avoid. I don't mind getting to some Carolina 1 here coming in around 4%. Aho and Jarvis, Svechnikov, I think, they could see some power play time. But again, Boston also has a very good penalty kill. And, the addition of Hampus Lindholm to that penalty kill just helps them. So not super high in this game in GPPs, but I think, there's some sneaky upside with Carolina being low owned. Boston 1. I think you full stack. I think people, adding in DeBrusk will lower the 3-man total for that game. So on the blue lines here, it's like the pricing is a bit wonky on the Carolina side, like it's always been. If you're going to power play stack, Tony DeAngelo makes some sense, but I don't know if you want to power play stack tonight. And I don't know if you want to one-off Tony D at 6,300. Jacob Slavin makes a little bit more sense, but he's in the mid 5s on DraftKings And then you have the Brady Shea and Brett Pesce combo that I like, but they're in the mid fours. I generally like them in the mid to high threes. So not too much interest on the Carolina defenseman. On the Boston side, Charlie McAvoy under 5K, despite Carolina having a very good penalty kill, makes some sense for sure at 4,900. You just get that added time on ice with the power play. So I do like Charlie McAvoy. Don't mind Hampus Lindholm either on that top pair at 3,200. Penalty killing, 3,200 is a nice price for Hampus if you want some, he has a shot at the block bonus as well. Or if you want to punt all the way down to Brandon Carlo at min price, I think that is fine as well. So let's move on to the next game. It's going to be a contentious series, especially if you're Leafs fans, because the Leafs have been eliminated in the first round every year since 1947. It's science. But this is a tough matchup. There aren't many cupcake matchups in the first round because of the way the NHL structures the playoffs. It's kind of silly. The Leafs get the 2-time defending champions, Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, I kind of like the Leafs here. The problem with the Leafs isn't offensively. They're going to score. The problem is with the Leafs is defensively and net. Like, they have question mark with Jack Campbell. If Jack Campbell shows up, the Jack Campbell he was in the first half of the season, they're going to be a tough out. But, there's big question marks in goal here. So let's start with the Leafs. I do really like the Leafs top line here tonight. I know Kerfoot's up there at 3,400. I think there's a couple ways you can get a little bit different using the Leafs tonight because they're coming in, Austin Matthews, per the Awesemo DFS ownership projections, is coming in around 20%. Not really surprising. He might come in even higher than that. Mitchell Marner around 15%. Now, Kerfoot's coming in at 10%. They're going to get that top line matchup, but I think the Leafs, and this was kind of Cliffy's thought as well. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we did talk about it, that they're kind of hiding Kerfoot on that top line because it doesn't really matter who plays with Matthews and Marner. They're going to carry that other person. So if you want to go Kerfoot with them, I think that's fine. But I think an elite option to go with them tonight is William Nylander at 5,300. He's coming in around 6%. Tampa is a very good team. Don't get me wrong, but they've had issues on the penalty kill, and the Leafs have one of the best power plays in the NHL. So if you want to leave Kerfoot off, add William Nylander in. I think that three-man combo of Nylander, Matthews, Marner going to be very, probably the lowest owned combo that you'll find. If you want to go to that second line, I think it's okay. Andre Kasha's back at min price. I kind of want to wait and see how Mikheyev and Kasha and Tavares mesh together. I think, from an ownership playing GPPs, I think you can go there. But for me, it's all about that top line for Toronto. Leave in Kerfoot if you want. If not, I think, William Nylander or John Tavares, I prefer Nylander, would be the play here. On the Tampa side, I think, for me, it's probably going to be a power play stack. That's kind of how I always deal with Tampa Bay. I want to see what the Leafs have, defensively. I want to see what Jack Campbell looks like. So I think, Stamkos, Kucherov, very expensive. They're coming in, the two of them, at 16,000, coming in double-digit ownership. So it's a very expensive adventure to get in Tampa tonight. But if you add in, a Braden Point for 5,900, it's 21.9, very expensive, but you get full power play correlation. If you can't fit in one of those guys, Alex Killorn, 3,100, is a nice cost saver. I wouldn't do something like Kucherov, Point, Killorn, just because that's going across three even strength lines. I think you want to stick to two lines here. You go like Stamkos, Kucherov, Point, or Stamkos, Kucherov, Killorn. I think you kind of avoid going across three even strength lines there. So power play stack for me, Toronto 1. On the blue lines, I think Morgan Rielly at 5K definitely makes some sense if you're doing anything with Toronto top line or power play. At 5K, that is reasonable. Jake Muzzin, 2,700, interests me as well. Just from a peripheral standpoint, he came back a few games left in the regular season. He should see some decent minutes at his price. On the Lightning side, Victor Hedman is a costly spend up at 7,200, but if you can fit him on power play stacks, I think you do. Otherwise, you can punt with McDonough at 3K on DraftKings or Chernak at 2,600 on DraftKings. We are right on time here. Let's move to the St. Louis Blues, 2.9 total going into Minnesota. The Minnesota Wild have a 3.2. This is a very competitive series. Now, Big news for the Wild. Marcus Foligno is going to be back, so that checking line is going to be intact. I put out some feelers on who I thought Joe Eriksson Ek, that line is going to go out against. I'm hoping they go out against Buchnevich, Thomas Tarasenko, Dina Vason. The Wild coach teams like a sharp guy. Thomas Tarasenko, Buchnevich is their best offensive line, so I would imagine they're going to go out against them. And, that will free up Hartman, Zuccarello, Kaprizov to go against the bottom six. Now, the Shen, Kyrou, Barbashev, not awful defensively, but it's certainly not the Ryan O'Reilly line here. So one of my favorite lines on the night in GBPs, and I'm not alone here, as they are the top projected owned line per the Awesemo Top Stacks tool at 22.4%, is the Minnesota top line, but they're one of my favorite of the night. I wish Hartman was getting top power play time, but, beggars can't be choosers there. It is what it is. You want to leave off Hartman, add in Joel Eriksson Ek. I think, Eriksson Ek's going to play, he gets the minutes bumps at home. He'll probably play 20 minutes. He's on the top power play. But I think you can go full Minnesota 1 here. They're going to get decent matchup. Add in Eriksson Ek for additional power play time. I think that's fine. I kind of do like Minnesota 2 as well, but they're going to get Ryan O'Reilly, David Perron, and that's kind of be pretty sludgy, I would imagine. I think adding in Fiala on a power play stack is fine. But, for me, Minnesota 1, maybe some Joel Eriksson Ek. On the St. Louis side, it would be that O'Reilly Perron line, and they are coming in as the highest owned Blues line. I'm not sure how much I'd get to them in GPPs at that ownership, but if you are going to attack the Wild, it is that Gaudreau, Fiala, Boldy line. Double digits on this slate for O'Reilly Perron feels kind of rough, but they are super cheap. Sod's under 3K, Ryan O'Reilly's 3,500, Perron 4,100. So if you need the space, if you're like power play stacking someone and want to go like O'Reilly, Sod, I think that is fine. Now to the blue lines here, Jared Spurgeon, power play quarterback at 4K. Obviously sticks out, makes some sense. If you want some peripherals and you can't get up to Spurgeon, I think Brodin at 3,400 makes sense. Dumba at 3,700 makes sense. Or if you want to dump all the way down to Jacob Middleton at min price, that makes some sense. On the blue side, there just isn't much that I want to play. Parayko at 3,700 is fine. Maybe he'll get some peripherals. Depending who you stack on St. Louis, you can correlate. If you're using that Tarasenko line, Justin Falk makes some sense at 4,400. If you're using the Ryan O'Reilly line, Torrey Krug at 3,800 makes some sense, but I'm not super thrilled with the Blues blue line. Now let's move to the personal main event of the evening for me. The Los Angeles Kings with a 2.6 total. Feels low. Vegas just disrespecting the Kings all up and down the place all season long, going into Edmonton to face Don Miguel, Mike Smith, and the Oilers, 3.5 total. Now, I think it's kind of interesting how we think the Oilers are going to match up. It doesn't really matter from a Kings perspective to me. Like, none of the Oilers lines are great defensively. It does kind of matter from an Oilers perspective. Like, I don't think they would send out McDavid against Danault. That just wouldn't make sense. I think they're going to send out McDavid against Kopitar, Draisaitl against Danault, like 1v1, 2v2, 3v3. We'll have to wait and see. That's something, that their line matching could mix up in the playoffs, but we're going to have to wait and see. Now, McDavid under 9K, projected at 25%. Again, like, if you watched the strategy show, you know what I like to do with the Oilers. It's put in McDavid, put in Draisaitl, and build around them on the power play. The Kings have a terrible penalty kill. So I think power play stacking is the way I want to go. I'm going to go McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl, something like that. McDavid, Kane, Draisaitl. Like, I know Kane isn't on the top unit, but McDavid, Draisaitl are probably going to play all 2 minutes of the power play. But, I'm going to mix and match the power play stacking here. Those guys as a whole are coming in very chalky, over 20%. But if you do the 3-man of McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl, I'm not sure how popular that's going to be. It's going to be popular, but I don't think it's going to be 23% popular. I think you can mix in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at 4,400 on DraftKings. He's projected for 7.4% ownership. So I think he's a nice guy to get in there if you're power play stacking to lower the ownership. And on the Kings, like, I'm probably off the Kopitar line. Something we've talked about, Cliffy and I, on the strategy show. On the road, the Kings just top line plays such to a slow pace. And for me, We've loved Los Angeles too all season. That doesn't change now. Over the sample of a full season, they almost had a 4 expected goals, 4 per 60. They're coming in at 3.5% right now in DraftKings. Mike Smith starting in net. Oilers not being very good defensively. I love the Kings second line tonight. They're cheap. They're not really cheap. Arvidsson's almost 7K, but the ownership is great. They're one of my favorite plays tonight. So let's move to the blue line really quickly here. I think Tyson Barrie's still in the top power play, and that just hurts. That stings the nostrils per se. I think Darnell Nurse at 6,400 makes a lot of sense. I know he doesn't get power play time, but he's going to play a ton of minutes. He's the peripheral guy. He has a good shot at a combo meal. So I think Nurse. If you want to correlate Barrie on the power play, that's fine. Or you want to dump down to like a Chris Russell or Cody Ceci, I think that's fine as well. On the Kings side, it's probably just going to be like a Dursey for the power play, or punting with like a Edler or Oli Mata, but nothing super exciting on the Kings blue line. And just briefly, I say I'm over the 15-minute mark, but let's just talk about goalies. I do like Linus Ullmark tonight, 7,600 on DraftKings. He should see some fair volume. I think they have a good chance to win here in GPPs. Ullmark makes sense. I also like Ranta at 7,800. I like both goalies from this game. I see, Tampa, like Andrei Vasilevsky projected almost 50% right now because he's 7,500. I'm kind of in a wait and see boat with him. I think, if you want to play him in GPPs at that price, I think it's personally fine. I think this is going to be a fairly high scoring series. But the Leafs do generate a lot of shots, so Vasilevsky from a GPP standpoint does make some sense. And then I think my favorite goalie play of the night is going to be Marc-Andre Fleury. I just feel like the Wild are going to be problems in the playoffs, especially at home with that shutdown line. You want to punt with Ville Husso. I think that's fine as well. I think I'd maybe rather play Vasilevsky than Husso, but I think you can take some stabs on Husso. In the late game, like from a GPP perspective, I don't like either goalie. I know in cash, the Oilers are big favorites, so Mike Smith makes some sense, but from GPPs, I don't really like either goalie here. So that will wrap up today's video. I hope you like the new format. Again, you can follow me on Twitter, JRH002DFS. If you liked the new format, just shoot me a message on Twitter saying you like this one better, you like the picks version better. I want some feedback. I want these to be as good as they can for you, so I'm open to suggestions. So Cliffy will be with you tomorrow, and good luck tonight.